All right, well, I'm here with Siobhan, which has to go somewhere in the record books of definitely someone who was drunk, decided to write that name, and then call it, use those letters to make up that name, because it's a very interesting spelling, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Looks
Where,
like
where, where's
ION.
the history of that?
So, my mom's side of the family is Irish, so it's an Irish name and it's the
Here's
Gaelic
the drunk part
spelling.
of it. Okay.
Yeah, so you hit that on the nail on the head for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, why don't you tell, I know who you are, but why don't you tell the folks here who you are and what exactly it is that you do?
Will do. Well, thank you for my intro. It was very nice of you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about
So,
this. I shouldn't tell you. Started off with that.
no, you're fine. So, I'm Siobhan, currently residing in sunny South Florida. Um, I had the pleasure of meeting Michael when I was in my previous career in hospitality. Long story short, I went to school thinking I was going to be in hotels and kind of work my way up that food chain and enjoy the hotel life, events life, food and beverage life, kind of go in and out of that. But once I was in hotels and I was in really busy hotels at the theme parks, I realized maybe, just maybe it's not for me. And while it was like really fun and I met some of my best friends, over the last 3 years, I've actually transitioned to a different career, which moved me back home because I grew up down here in South Florida. So now I'm doing something completely different, essentially social media marketing, also known as network marketing, that thing, that girl. But it's a lot of fun. I found a great company that embodies like a lot of what I enjoy. Health, beauty, is inspiring people to live well, and it's been awesome. So life looks very different from when we were working together, but we kept in touch because we're awesome.
Right. I mean, you kind of mentioned that you were in hotels and that you kind of saw the way certain things were, and maybe that wasn't exactly what you wanted to do. So what made you really decide to turn and go this direction? Not meaning like why you left hotels, but what made you go in this avenue?
So I actually did enjoy hotels. Like the whole point of me even getting started in hospitality was, I guess, like somewhere deep rooted, I knew I wanted to help people, and I really enjoyed traveling and vacationing. So I merged the two and discovered hospitality. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's try it out. And um, I was a little frustrated with I guess like lack of support and structure within a hotel. While I know every chain is different, and of course every company is run different, it quickly just the industry kind of became more so like squeaky wheel gets the oil, and I just found myself frustrated, and I was no longer helping people. It was just like, how much can I give you to shut you up right now and get you away from me? And so I wasn't living out my passion anymore. Um, Also, because we worked for such a busy chain and we were meeting people on the regular, I was always getting sick. So, friend through friend through friend, I got hooked up with this product called greens that would help me boost my immune system. So I was actually using the supplement while I was working at the hotels, and finally I stopped getting sick. Um, anyway, the girl that's like, I'm getting this greens product through, I see that there's like a business side to this. I'm like, wait, she's making money off these greens. So I look into it. She's on Facebook. She's, it's what's happening. Let's pull back the curtain a little bit. So I probably, not to sound stalkerish, but I watched her for a good year and a half, really thought about it back and forth, back and forth. And then eventually I was like, I'm gonna give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward. It's been awesome.
Well, that's pretty interesting. It tends to be how a lot of people get involved with different social networking is they end up using a product that works, and then they end up just going, well, hey, I need to know more about this. And I think that's the hard part with social networking is because that it's a legit thing,
Right.
but sometimes it's difficult with speaking with people about it because there's just different ideas of what that means. and or people knew somebody who knew somebody, and they listened to the person. The interesting thing is, if you were sick, right, and you had an issue, would you talk to your friend who was in nursing school, or would you talk to your friend who was who watched Grey's Anatomy all the time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting thing. I don't know. Inspiration. Was there somebody that inspired you to basically say, okay, you know what, I'm going to hang up this this idea of working for a company, having a 401k, having benefits, and I'm going to go do my own thing now?
So, I would say in the beginning, no, there really wasn't one source or one person of inspiration. Unfortunately and fortunately, it became more of a place of frustration. So of course, I decided to try a different hotel chain. And when I realized it's the industry, it's not the hotel chain, I decided to leave the second brand. And they were like, well, maybe you don't have to like completely leave. Maybe you can kind of like stick around.
Right.
You can help out when we need you to, like if we have an outing or something. Fine. Well, as I go figure myself out, fine. So I stayed on doing on-call stuff, which is weird because literally I was like the first ever on-call manager. It's quite the experience, if
I bet.
you can imagine.
I don't even know how that would work.
Yeah. So I was in Orlando, but then the Palm Beach location for the brand I was working for, which is down here where I grew up, needed some task force. Long story short, like they were closing, then they decided not to close. Their franchise, so completely different from what we're used to. And I stayed. I never ended up leaving task force, and that was about 3 years ago. So I actually was still like technically, even though I was on call, I was kind of still working part-time and then starting my business, which I would recommend. Like I didn't go to school for business. I knew nothing about entrepreneurship. I knew nothing about business in general. So I played it safe, and I recommend going that route, is playing it safe, because you kind of need that safety net. But eventually I got myself to a spot where I could walk away from that because I was like good enough. And then I wouldn't consider myself a professional yet. It's only been 3 years, but I was able to walk away from it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's sometimes a misconception that people have, is they think they're going to start something and they're going to walk away from their job in 2 weeks or 1 month. And that's just not plausible. Even people who have brick and mortar businesses, a lot of times they start them and they work a nighttime job while they run their brick and mortar business during the day, or vice versa.
Yeah. I like that you said that it's impossible, because I thought the same thing. It's weird. It happens though sometimes. Mm-hmm. And those few and far between purple magical unicorns are the stories that get told and told and told. So that's what a lot of people think is going to happen. Mm-hmm. But of course, my journey has been a little bit more realistic, a little bit more common. So I try to share my journey and like what's happened to me so far as much as I can, because this is a little bit more realistic. And just because my journey has turned into something that I found my passion in, like, you're already on social media. Like, you might as well bring in an extra source of income and let it pay for or be the vehicle that you need it to be to open up the brick and mortar store that you want to open, go back to school so you don't have to take out a ton of loans, or, just whatever passion project you want to do in life.
Mm-hmm. It's a great thing that you brought that up, because one thing that people say is, they say I'm a realist. Not me personally, but they say to themselves that they're a realist, which typically means that they're glass half empty kind of person, and they're just saying they're a realist. So do you think a person can be a true realist and still accomplish their goals?
I think it depends on just like how you mentioned, there's what they view as realism and what the actual definition is. So, I mean, if you adopted and adapted and became your own, probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But if you came the realism definition, then yeah, because I like how you also mentioned mindset earlier. Like, you eventually adapt into this mindset of belief and realism, and it kind of just collectively comes together into something beautiful and unfolds that way. I guess that's like a good way to describe it.
What are your plans now? Where do you see yourself going? I mean, what are some of the goals that you have in place? You don't have to get specific about business, but maybe personal goals or whatever you're thinking about, or something that might help folks who are watching this and going, well, I'm trying to relate to this person. What are some goals you think that might be relatable?
Well, some relatable goals. We all have our moments in life where we maybe made some decisions that weren't the best decisions. So my first and foremost goal is to really take my business, which also means the team that I've built thus far, and really like 10x it, because I just want to get to that level of bliss. Like, I've learned that there's a difference between like happiness, peace, and then like bliss, which kind of just embodies everything that I eventually want. And to do that, debts need to be paid off, schooling, some of us got a little crazy little credit cards, maybe, that kind of stuff. And just, it's not the glamorous side of things, it's the responsible side of things, just making sure you get the adult stuff out of the way, and then you build up your savings and you go and you have your fun. For a while I was a little frustrated because I was like, oh my gosh, what do I now want to do with my life? Like, my network marketing business can't just be it for me. But I've been told I have somewhat of a gift for communication. Okay. And while I'm not a parent, and I will never say I have good advice for parents, because I haven't had a kid yet, I would really, really, really like to actually write a book about how to like seamlessly open up the lines of communication between parents and children. But I don't know the first half of writing a book, how to become an author. I would need a ton of money, publishing, like all of that. So it's way, way, way down the road. But this is going to be something to help me get there. Sure. And considering real estate, I don't know, there's a lot of things to consider down the road. But like I said, the T's and the I's need to be dotted and crossed now.
Right. Although now's a great time to write a book. Since people although it's different for you, right? Because your office is wherever you're at.
It is, which is a blessing. However, it was an adjustment because, while I work on social media platforms, I still like using it for fun, and finding that balance between like not really working right now, but yet like that green light's next to your name. So your team and your customers still expect you to be available.
Right.
That's a fun transition to figure out.
I'm sure you get asked a lot of questions. Probably get asked a lot of the same questions. So what's something that maybe people ask you all the time? And then what's maybe something that they should be asking you instead?
What if I fail? What if you succeed? Because to me, like you mentioned before, or how we were talking about like that purple unicorn, like some people view, if you don't have that really quick success where you just like skyrocket your income out of nowhere overnight or within your first couple of months, that you're a failure. And that's not true at all. If you quit, you're a failure. So when people say, well, like, what if I fail? What if you don't? Another biggie is, what will my friends and family think? Why do you have friends and family? Or like, why do you keep your inner circle as someone that you think could potentially judge you just for wanting to bring in some extra income in your life? And then I guess just to like round it off nicely, a third one would be knowing a lot of people. Like, oh, I need to know a ton of people to make this happen. That's not sure at all. I had less than 300 people on Instagram, I think, maybe around 300 or 400 on Facebook. And that was whoever I met at UCF and whoever I became friends with that up until that point in hotels. So.
Mm-hmm. So you kind of touched on it a little bit with that answer, but what do you think holds people back? And I'm sure that there's more than there's two answers to that. There's specifically for what you do, and then there's just in general. So any ideas on that?
Oh yeah. For sure. So I am, which is so cool because I love this new thing that I've kind of put in my life. I'm a self-development junkie now. And it really, whether it's my business or it's just in everyday life, there's so much that holds people back. And the amount of like limiting beliefs that we put on ourselves is crazy. Like, I think that we've like, of course, like stayed in touch and stayed friends because like we generally like view each other as like kind people and we're friendly. And I thought I was like the most positive person. I cannot tell you, even as soon as like a year ago, I'll read some old posts, be like, that is ugly behavior. Like, what were you thinking in that post? So, it's all just like deep rooted. Some people like are like, oh, it's from childhood. I don't know about all that. Maybe some things, but not everything. It's mindset, it's positivity, it's embracing the unknown. But I guess everyone's fear is different. So like those three that I hit on, like not knowing enough people and fear of judgment and fear of failure though are the biggies that I'm finding.
Yeah.
You won't know until you try. Better to have a now I know than a what if, you know, the cliches. Those are my answers because they're the truth.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people they view things as wasted time.
Yeah.
If they don't work out or if it didn't work out, I mean, and that's in every avenue, whether it's a relationship, you know, with somebody, or it's a restaurant that you went to, you know, that you didn't have good service and you didn't like the meal, like in everything in between there. There's a lot of times where people do something and they go, you know, I just spent XYZ amount of time, XYZ amount of money, and I got nothing to show for it. And the thing that people need to understand is there are lessons that you can learn and there's experiences you can pull from. I don't know if you can pull from experience if you go to a bad restaurant, but you can know never to go there again or not to order that cuisine.
I love that example because I'm sure you've come across this so many times where you probably recommended something for someone, whether they were visiting the hotel or they were a close friend of yours. And you're like, you have to go there. It's great. You're going to love it. Ask for so-and-so. And they came back and they said, we had a horrible time and we will never be going back there.
Mm-hmm.
And you probably just like take a step back and you're like, wait, I've been there so many times. I've never had a bad experience. Did you do something? Did they have an off night? What could have possibly happened? And then you go back and you still have your good experience.
Right.
So I wish more people would be open to the fact that everyone's experiences are different and everyone experiences things different. Like your perception, like it could be your mood. It could have been your server's mood. It could have been what happened in the restaurant. Maybe they lost power earlier that day. Because, you know, people think they have an idea in their head and that may have been true for that person on that day, but it's not like the general truth, you know?
Right. That is something I learned as a concierge. You have to be careful. You have to walk a fine line between painting a dream for somebody and then painting expectations.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult one to do because you want them to know that they're going to the right place, but you also want them to be impressed when they get there. And if you go overboard with all of the things that you've experienced over multiple times, then you're going to give them an overload. They're going to think this is the most amazing place ever, and then it's not going to be that great. It's like going to the movie theater and watching a comedy and laughing and laughing and laughing and you're like, this is great. You can't wait to rent it, and somebody, your friend of yours, has never seen it before, and you're like, hey, let's watch this movie, and you watch it and you're like, that wasn't that funny. And it's because you were around a bunch of people inside a movie theater, so the expectation was there. Everybody was laughing, having a good time, so it amped it up. But when you go and watch it on your own, it's not that great. So that's a tough thing to kind of figure out. And people who can do that, I think definitely are definitely somebody who is tapped into what people want.
Yeah.
You're coming from the perspective of, I want to help you, I want you to succeed, versus I want you to do what I want you to do.
Yeah, that's a big no-no.
Right.
You have to meet them where they're at,
right,
however short or small that they've come. And it's tough. Well, I guess in my situation, I have to see their potential sometimes before they can see their potential. But even like with the restaurant example, just, kind of get a good feel for them and what their likes and dislikes may be. It's tough. Like you said, it's that fine line trying to find that.
Anything that you want to pass along?
Yeah. I want to say something specifically for my business, and then something specifically is just like a flat out gift, because we brought up the self-development thing, and there is no such thing as you have nothing left to learn.
Right.
Whether it's like a self-help book or a podcast or an audiobook, anything. If you can just expand your mind a little bit and open up your perspective, even if you think you're not going to agree with it, it will serve you so much to just at least try to be understanding that maybe you don't know everything.
Right.
And you can let some more information in to round out your knowledge. I just think it's really good. It'll take people really far. And then specifically for my business, I will say that while I was scared to death and I had no idea what I'm doing, and I still don't know what I'm doing, it's a day-by-day thing and I figure it out. This is so simple. This just social media marketing, social networking, whatever it is you want to call it. There's like 100 names right now. Anyone can do this, but it's not for everyone. You don't know if it's for you until you try it. So find that person you connect with, find that company you connect with. Everyone's got a product line. Connect with it. If you find your inspiration in that, if you find your likes and joys within that, it'll take you far. And with the right leadership, it can be whatever you want to be.
So how do we find you? What do we want to do? If people see this and they go, okay, well, I want to know more. I want to lose weight and feel healthy. Or I want to know more about what it is that Siobhan does, and I can't figure out how to find her because I can't spell her name correctly. How do they do that?
Well, I'm sure, because you probably have like a comment section underneath, right? So I can give you my handle or handles for just, can we curse on here?
Sure.
So for shits and giggles, I'll just spell my name out real quick because it's fun. So it's like Siobhan, Siobhan. You'll probably find me that way. And I'll be showing up with my smile somewhere in a...
Just so in case you didn't get that, that's Siobhan. And that somehow spells Siobhan.
Yes. Yes. Thanks, Mom. There's two sides to my business, right? Like I can help you meet your goals, or I can help you earn some extra income, or I can help you do both. And health, beauty, wellness, lose weight, nutrition, whatever you want. We got something for everyone. And I'll help you out. I'd love to.
All right, thanks, Siobhan. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun, and thanks for spending your Cinco de Drinko with me.
Yes, Cinco de Drinko.
Cheers.